Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, Marina. Welcome back to Unfuck Your Money. I'm your host, Nadine Zalmot. You all are in for a treat today. I've got my friend and my colleague and my client and my mentor. You're everything, all in one, all in one.
Package deal,
Marina.
baby.
Marina is back on Unfuck Your Money. Welcome back. How's it going? Nice to have you
Thank
back.
you. Thank
So
you.
for the oh sorry, I'm just gonna say for those who don't know who Marina is, they're like, oh, who? I will link our first episode together in the show notes, but keep going.
Well, maybe I can say three words because sometimes people are like, oh, I have to listen to another
Yeah, okay,
thing. No,
true.
no, thank
Okay.
you. So I'm a somatic coach, somatic life and business coach, and Nadine and I met in Body Sense, which
Yeah.
was my certification program with Anna for somatic practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was learning from you to stop overspending.
Stop
That's my big
overspending.
win. That is a huge, huge win. That is, in place now for many months, and it's really, really cool. And what I do is, work with people's nervous systems and bodies and sensations and emotions around their triggers, around inner child. So we're gonna dive into all of that today.
Yes, we are. And I think we have the best jobs ever, don't we? I love this stuff.
I do.
I get to work with people's nervous systems and inner child. Yes, me too. Isn't that fun?
I agree. That is so cute, right? Yeah, I get to see people's nervous system and inner child. Yeah, it's a blessing. It really is.
I never ever asked you what got you into somatic healing, into somatics or
That's
somatic healing.
wild.
Yeah, I never ever asked you that. We might as well record the answer so I don't ask you again.
So I started my first business, I think it was like 11 years ago now, and
Mhm.
it was in plant-based nutrition, teaching people how to cook. I was coaching, I had a blog, I had recipes, I had YouTube, I was everywhere.
Blog. Ooh,
Yes,
you're the
yes,
OG, aren't you? You had a
totally.
blog. Okay.
Totally, totally. And I was really in my head at the time, very much in my head. I was going to, talk therapy for years, even at that point.
Hmm.
But I was completely in my head and I was really looping and feeling very unsuccessful and feeling just awful in that business. That feeling of like, I know my purpose, I know what I'm doing, like I'm excited about it, but nothing was working. It just felt incredibly stuck, money wise, impact wise, like all the things. And funny enough, my one-on-one clients, I always talk to them about trauma, of course,
Of course.
even though I wasn't specifically trained, but like I was like, okay, what's the deeper thing keeping you stuck with whatever is going on in your body, your physical
Hmm.
health? And so finally I met a coach who was like, you're so in your head, Marina. Like you literally have learned every marketing thing possible. Like you know all the stuff. Maybe it's not the strategy, maybe it's something in your body. And I was like, what?
Hmm.
What body? Who has a body? What are you talking about? I was literally so dissociated, Nadine. I could only feel from the neck up. Couldn't feel my
Mm.
body, like nothing. And I couldn't put it together that trauma was coming out in my business because in my head at the time, which we know isn't true, it had to be the exact repetition of an event. So it's like, well, I've never owned a business before. So, like, how could I have business trauma or financial trauma?
Got it. Yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah.
was all the trauma of my whole life just coming out in this business. And every time I would get rejected, for example, by a client, I would lay in bed for 3 days. I kid you
Mhm.
not.
Mhm.
3 days, shut down, can't function. So that coach kind of got me curious. And then I went to a therapist and I was like, is there such a thing as like therapy in the body? Like, is that a thing? Like, I had no clue. And they're like, oh, you're talking about somatic experiencing? And I was like, huh? And that's how I ended up doing 3 years of somatic experiencing. At the time, I was still working with my plant based coaching clients. And I started asking my therapist, oh, can I do this? Can I use that? Can I do this tool? Literally asking her. And she would be like, this, no, this, yes, kind of teaching me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started incorporating some of the things, especially when I felt very confident because I was, getting like training myself in it through practice.
Yeah.
And then I got official trainings after that and totally switched my business.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. I love what you do. I
Me
love what you
too.
do.
Thank you.
And the world famous question, how is somatics different to mindset work?
Mm, mhm. I was doing so much of that,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
doing so much of that at that time.
I bet you
So
were. It's so popular, right? It's all in the mind, all the mindset. It's so not, though. It's so not. Like the
it's
mindset's
it's
a cherry
not.
on top. Everything else, the cup, the ice cream, the cake, that's all in the body, isn't it?
Well, I feel like when you're doing the body-based work, your
Hmm.
mind changes automatically. Like
Hmm.
it kind of flows out of it. You don't have to force it. And I remember watching videos at that time of people who would say, you need to go deeper into your subconscious mind. They would use the word mind, even though I believe subconscious and unconscious is in our bodies.
Me
It's not
too.
in our
I
minds.
never, ever, ever think about the subconscious as a mind. I always, as soon as the word subconscious hits, I know it's straight in the body. And actually, it's a very important distinction because I just assume that people understand that this, when I say subconscious, that it's the body. But I think I need to be a little more explicit with that, right?
Yes, because a lot of teachers, especially in spiritual
Mm-hmm.
context and in mindset, they will say, well, let's go deeper into the subconscious mind.
Mm.
And so people, I remember thinking, where is it in my brain? Like, let's dig in there, it's somewhere there. So I'm always a fan of like, how can we go to the root? Like, I love
Mm-hmm.
depth,
Same, same.
like let's dig all the way. I don't want to just do the shallow layer and then like nothing
Not
really
me.
changes.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And so that's where it differs. Like when you go into the body, that's the storage of all your stuff in
Everything,
your
everything.
lifetime
Yeah.
and the lifetime before, and when you were in the womb, and even your ancestors.
Yes.
And this is sciencey, like spiritual and scientific both, because the DNA of you is created when your mother is in your grandmother,
Yeah, exactly.
already created, which is
Yeah.
so wild.
And just going into the mindset, especially with the work that you do, the work that I do with money, it's so not the full story. It's just so much willpowering and so much efforting. Whereas when you do somatic work, we don't really need a lot of effort in the end, right? Like I really find that mindset work, we're making ourselves wrong when our mind slips into old thought patterns or old habits. But somatic healing, when we do somatic healing, it really, like in the end, I know that like it's circular. Healing is circular. It's not linear. But at the end, with time, we don't really need discipline. Do you find that that's the case with you and your clients?
Absolutely. And I have a really cool example because I run
Mhm.
into this still within myself where I start efforting. And a lot of the efforting also happens where I see a pattern and I'm like, how do I change this pattern? Right? I need to change my pattern. So, for example, one of my patterns is in relationships, I often send personal development content to the other person. And I think this is very common, probably for your listeners, because we are all working on ourselves, right? And we're very excited and we want to share this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is why? And I know that it comes from a very survival place inside of
Mm-hmm.
me. Now, if you go the somatic route, what's really cool is you can see that you can ask this question, how is this helpful? Like a more compassionate question, how is this
Yeah.
pattern of mine trying to help me?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? It's very controlling, it's manipulative, it's annoying, it's obnoxious, whatever. And the compassion leads me to see part of it is me, part of it is I don't feel safe. So
Mm-hmm.
this is how I'm trying to feel safe.
Got it. Yeah,
But
yeah.
part of it is, well, why don't I feel safe? What's going on the other side of the interaction?
That's
You
a
know?
very holistic approach. I mean, you call it compassionate, I call it holistic. It's the same thing. It's basically just no blame, no shame, just really being inquisitive and open and seeing that there is nothing wrong with what you're doing if you look at it from the root cause perspective and not taking on the blame yourself, just seeing and not blaming the other person, because there's a lot of blaming of the other person that can happen in personal development, right? If we're not careful, if we're not working with the right practitioner. But it's more of like the taking of the responsibility to the right amount and seeing what are you actually reacting to. That's more of a holistic approach than shamey, blamey kind of, stuff, whatever.
I also think that when you're coming from the like mindset personal development world, there's so much of the use of the word responsibility that I actually don't like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, especially for people that are helpers,
Oh
that
yeah,
are
like us. Yeah, yeah,
overgiving,
yeah.
yes, that are coming from narcissistic backgrounds, that they have experienced narcissism in different ways. We tend to already take responsibility. Like that's our
Yeah.
default. We're like, what did I do wrong? Okay, let me check. And why is my pattern wrong? And what am I
Mhm.
doing bad? And so what you said I really like is like the right amount, because sometimes, yes, it is your pattern for sure, and you can work on it. But on the other side, there's a person who's activating this pattern,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
And this,
two-way street.
mm-hmm,
It's a really a two-way street. We can't just say I did all this, because we do me and you, and I know a lot of my listeners have the overgiver kind of money block kind of thing.
yes,
And we tend to take on too much responsibility. And that's not helpful for anyone, because it really
yeah.
takes, what's the saying? It takes two to tango.
Absolutely. And I think in the mindset world, it's like just you, like
Mm.
only look at you, and kind of like how can I change it rather than how can I be with it? I think that question is really
That's
such a
so
huge
powerful.
distinction.
So, okay, let's pause here. How can I change it versus how can I be with it? So, if we
Mhm.
were to take this model and try to dig into how can we transform our relationship to our self-worth using that,
Mm,
and using the somatic model, for example. How can we
mhm,
repattern our self-worth
mhm,
using that phrase of like, how can I be with it, instead of like, I need to change this, to something wrong with it. It's broken, I'm broken
mhm,
kind of thing,
mhm.
especially with self-worth.
Yeah, so let's say you draw your self-worth from giving. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only time that you feel good or worthy, right? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
going with this example, and I very much relate to that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm good when I'm giving. So the somatic lens is always asking, how does this make sense? How does this make sense? Not make sense. Like not what's wrong with it, what's
Yeah.
right with it.
Yeah.
So much is right with it because probably when you were a kid, this is what kept you safe.
Yes.
And this is when you were giving, first of all, you were not in touch with the pain of what happens when you're not giving, which was probably huge.
Huge.
And you were also getting love.
It's a
So
socially
you
acceptable coping mechanism, overgiving, isn't it?
totally, totally. So you learn that. And so that's how you operate. And that's how you're being with it, which I think even the action itself of being with, meaning like what's right with this and just sitting with how it feels in your body. For example, when you're overgiving and it feels safe,
Yeah.
like just feeling that and then feeling what happens when you stop in
Mm-hmm.
small amounts, because that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
feel so
Yeah,
intense.
you need to titrate it for sure, for sure, for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so just dipping into, oh, ooh, uncomfortable, like super scary, maybe terrifying.
Terrifying.
Being with yourself in this way, I feel like it already gives you more of a feeling of self-worth, because it's like, this is who I am, and I'm just being with myself. I'm not saying, oh, I'm so bad, so much is wrong with me, let me try to fix me,
Mm-hmm.
which when I started personal development, that's what I was doing all the time, like, let me fix myself.
Oh, I
And
didn't
now
need
it's
I didn't
like,
need personal development to go down that route. I have my daddy issues
there you
that made me
go.
do that.
Perfect. And so the somatic lens is so much like our nervous system is brilliant. It's always doing the right thing. And the little you, the inner child you is so wise. Like let's look
Yeah.
at how she dealt with things, right?
Mhm.
And that already feels so relieving and so loving to yourself to even look at things in that way.
Yeah, it really is different. It's a completely different story when you start looking at your life from that compassionate, holistic lens, and from going into the body straight away, and we're going to go into your method with working with triggers. But before that, I'd love to hear your definition of triggers. What
Oh,
is a trigger?
I should have prepared because I literally have like should I pull it up? I have it
Yeah,
written.
pull it up. Of course, you worked so hard on putting that definition together. Of course, we're
I
gonna wait for you as you pull it up, Marina.
Oh, thank you, but in my computer is a bit slow.
I can play some
I
elevator
spoke,
music.
or I
Toot-toot-toot-toot.
can do it on my phone. There we
Or
go.
she could do it on her phone.
You know, I spoke at the Embody Lab. There we go.
Oh,
That was
nice.
and for them, I was like, I'm gonna come up with an actual definition from all the years of trigger
Lay it
work.
on us. Come on. I'm
So,
ready.
my definition of a trigger: an external event that creates time travel in your body,
Hmm.
bringing up intense emotions, sensations, and reactivity. And we're going to break all the parts down,
Hmm.
don't worry. Taking you out of the present and into the past, a powerful opportunity to heal.
I love that. The treasure is in the trigger. TM Marina.
Yes,
All right, dive in.
exactly.
Dive in.
Okay, so the external event could be anything. It could be a text, it could be an email, it could be really anything. The external event does not matter. It's just, and actually, I need to amend my
I was
definition.
gonna say I have internal triggers. I don't know about you.
Yes, it could
I
be,
felt
of
really
course.
alone here.
It could be physical pain, right? Which is internal. But just anything,
Oh,
any
I
event.
get triggered from my thoughts as well. And memories trigger me. A
Absolutely.
lot of things trigger me from inside.
Absolutely.
I don't need outside to to pull my threads or
Well,
whatever.
I would say that something happens maybe that brings up the memories, and it could be
Mm,
very, very slight, right? And then, of
right.
course, the memories are triggering, but physical pain is definitely a trigger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, an event, but the point is the event doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this like catastrophic, awful thing.
Mhm.
It could
It's
be
not the why, it's what's happening in the body.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So the time travel means that all of a sudden you feel five, you feel three, you feel whatever, right? Because you're going back into the past and your body is reacting to the present moment from the space of the past.
Hmm.
And you have intense is the key word here, emotions, sensations, and reactivity. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is if you look
disproportionate.
back, yeah, exactly. It's not proportional. It's your body feels unsafe,
Hmm.
essentially. That's
Hmm.
the basics of it. And you're reacting to things as if you're like in grave physical
Hmm.
danger.
Hmm.
Now, you might be, you might be in a not super friendly interaction, let's say, but you're not going to die, right?
Yeah,
But your
exactly.
body, if you're going to die, that is not a trigger. That's like uh a danger, a threat. That's not called a trigger. If you're literally under threat, I would not call it a trigger,
Yeah.
including even emotional abuse. Like that's like, you know, and we can get into, I actually just added a module to that course talking about triggers in relationships. Are you okay? Do
I
you
am.
choke?
I muted myself to cough, but yes, I'm good. I'm gonna mute
Okay.
myself again.
So, and I'll just keep talking about triggers. So within relationships, this can get quite tricky
Mm,
because we can be triggered by a person doing something, and we can also need to walk away or set a boundary because we're not being respected. So it's not only that we need the internal work, it might be external and internal. Just a
mhm,
side note. And there's a new module in the course that I've created about triggers talking about that.
mhm,
So coming back to intense emotions, so not anger, rage, not sadness, grief, not fear, terror. Like it's very
mhm,
intense sensations in the body. And then your reaction. It could also be your thoughts in the moment, like very black or white. It could
mhm,
also be, you yell, you shut down, you want to run away, like that kind of reaction. And taking you out of the present moment and into the past, you suddenly feel like, again, you're five, three, whatever.
yeah.
And of course, a powerful opportunity to heal because triggers are bringing up something that needs to be looked at that is living in your body all that time, even if you haven't been noticing it.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about financial triggers. Oh my God. Financial triggers for me. I feel like now that I've been in Jordan for about 3 months, um, I kind of found this pattern of mine. And I actually am just articulating it now for the general public, but for real, like I was just thinking about it today. My mind has this favorite hobby of finding something to be scared of. And it kind of makes sense. And here's where I don't make myself wrong straight away. Like this pattern came up. I'm like, it's so true. I really tend to find things to be scared of, even when there's nothing scary. And it makes so much sense because of the way I grew up. I was always scared. There was scary things outside the house and scary things definitely inside the house. So that's what's familiar for me, finding things to be scared of. And because money is my biggest trigger, that's why I specialize in money. My mind tends to find financial things to be scared of. So my financial triggers are both internal and external, especially when things are good. Like you'd think when things are a little bit scary financially or uncertain, that would make sense. But it's when things are good financially, my mind's like, oh, we need to find something to be scared of. Let's just create a scenario. And then my whole system goes into a spiral, right? So some of my financial triggers are my thoughts. What are some of your financial triggers? I know the supermarket.
Ooh,
The supermarket is a big one that we worked on a lot.
yes, and it's
Yeah.
changed a lot
Mm.
because
Tell
my
us more
grandmother
about that.
yeah, my grandma is a Holocaust survivor and we stockpile, you know? I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
very common Jewish thing, or anyone who's been in war or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
hungry, like
Yes.
literally
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stockpiling everything. And so what ended up happening, I was telling my friend the other day, I used to spend like, I kid you not, sometimes $300 a week on food on one person,
On one
me.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was because every time, and I had a lot of course, shame and guilt about it.
Yeah, it's the worst because I have that habit as well. And it's not only that, but it's the shame that comes with it and the guilt.
It's
It
embarrassing. Like, why
is.
does one person need to spend that much on food? And
I know.
anytime anything in my pantry was like running low, I'm not saying I'm out,
Yes, the
running
same.
low. I have to go and buy 10 of them because there's going to be a war. It's not going to be available. So I have to buy it now. And I think that it actually was really highlighted in Costa Rica because there aren't the same availabilities here of things and where I live. And, and sometimes like one thing will be available, but then it's just not anymore. And you
Yeah.
don't know when it's coming back.
Oh,
So
so
that's
that's really triggering. That's like for real
yes.
stirring the pot there. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, so that's something I've had to really work on. And sometimes I just know, like with you, which has been brilliant. And sometimes I also just really notice, like, and I can tell myself, oh, I don't actually need this. And
Yeah.
I still have some and it's okay. And
And
even
it's
if it
okay.
runs out, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to be impossible. Like that took many, many months of like
Yeah, I remember. I
very
remember. I was sitting
gentle.
on this chair and I told you, let it run out. Remember when you were telling me something, like, let it run out, let's see what happens.
I'm
And
still alive.
you're still alive. I'm still here. That's good. The chair's still, that's good. That's a good
Yes.
sign. That's a good, really good sign, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other one, which I'm actually really going through right
Uh-huh.
now, just like you mentioned, it's a lot of helplessness and it's a lot of this feeling like I have to go above and beyond
Uh-huh.
and really like be so seen and be number one in everything I do to have money. Otherwise, I can't have money.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
also,
yeah. That's a common thing of like, oh, only the rich and talented or only the something, like the really special people are the
yes.
ones that shine, and these are the people that have money. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's also very generational because Jewish people in Ukraine, as it's where I'm from, that's how it was. Like
Mm.
my parents and my grandpa, even my parents couldn't get into university unless they were like top of the top of the top of the class. My mom graduated number one in her entire school, and
Whoa.
she was still sent to Moscow for school. They refused her in Ukraine. She had to
Oh my
go
God.
on a train super far away to school. And so, those stories have been told and shared so much in my family.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And my grandma also raised me together with my mom, and she would always If I got a 97, I remember being in class shaking, like literally, like so scared
Oh,
to come home because she would make her face and just be like, why not 100? It's that line. That line is always, why
my
not 100?
my dad, why not 100? Who got higher grades than you? What about blah? And he'd list all my friends. That would make me feel smaller and smaller and smaller by every question, right?
Yes, yes.
It
It's
makes,
really awful.
yeah, it
And it
makes
makes
sense.
you feel invisible.
Of absolutely, right? It makes you, it fills you up with shame, doesn't it? I'm very
Yes.
familiar with that parenting tactic. Let's just put it that way.
Parenting style. Thank you so much, parents. Yeah, and of course we can recognize like they were, doing their best based on what they knew and how
Yeah.
they thought we would survive. And it's really so interesting that I live such a different reality. I'm living in Costa Rica. I'm like way more safe than them. Nobody knows here if I'm Jewish or not. Nobody gives a shit. But it's still like in my bones
Yeah,
so much.
I get it. I still get it.
So when I'm launching something and there are no sales in the beginning, that always triggers me very much, and I start
Hmm.
going into shutdown, and my nervous system gets very, very activated.
So, can our reaction to a trigger change or be different if we have a history of complex trauma?
Absolutely. I think
Mm.
that the charge goes down. We just talked about the grocery store. Like,
Hmm.
I literally now, it's so cool. I've shared this with you. I remember the moment when I got the delivery of, like, I get a weekly, like, organic delivery of veggies and stuff and fruits. And I remember getting it and thinking, oh my God, I spent really little this week, but I'm
Hmm.
getting so much. And it usually was the opposite. It was like, I spent so much and got so little. And it's so funny how you think, oh, it's just numbers and it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. It's your nervous system paying for things and making, like it's just so funny. And now it's like I can have a budget and it doesn't actually like trigger me to have
Hmm.
the budget to be like, this is how much I'm going to spend $100 a week, more or less. And I feel like, oh, I have everything I need. Like I have all the produce, I have everything I need. So absolutely it can change. And I love that you're bringing up complex trauma because living with complex trauma is very different and
It
it's
is.
it's really fucking hard.
It's
Like, let's
very
just be
hard.
honest. It's very hard. The triggers abound. Like, it is not the same
Yeah.
as a person with, I mean, we all have
We
some
all
form
have
of,
traumas. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, but
Yeah.
this is a different kind of level,
Mm.
and the triggers are more intense,
Yeah.
and I would even say random, and just, yeah. So, yes, it can definitely change. And I think and it's slow. So we have to remember it's not like you do practices and then tomorrow, like that
No?
trigger goes away.
What about like the heal your trauma in 60 seconds stuff that you see on Instagram? No?
Sorry.
That stuff drives
Sorry to
that
disappoint.
stuff drives me nuts. So
Totally.
let's not talk shit about people, Marina. Why do you do this to me?
I triggered you into it.
You
But I just wanted to say that,
say.
it it changes over time, and it just the charge goes down to the point where you can observe it instead of feeding into it. So, for example, I'll give you a really good one.
Yeah.
I have such guilt around my needs, like any needs.
Hmm.
Just the guilt comes up, especially if it feels like it's going to bother someone,
Uh-huh.
right? Or
Hmm.
or a friend wants to go to the beach. We decided to go to the beach. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I really don't want to go to the beach, right? Guilt. Oh my God, I can't tell them. I can't change my mind. Like, no, I have, like, whatever. So instead of feeding into it and going to the beach and suffering, I observe now the guilt. Like, I just notice it. I
Yeah.
notice the discomfort. And even though it's still there, the guilt has not left. I
Mm.
don't feed into it. So my behavior has now shifted, and the way I communicate with that other person changed
Yeah.
rather than just feeding into the trigger, right?
Yes. So which brings me to the question of like, how do you kind of outlined it here, but let's spell it out. How do you teach your clients to work through triggers? So I know that we always start in the body, but I'd love to hear more about your technique.
Yes. So the first step is you need to know what
Mm.
it feels like when you're triggered, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, you won't be able to notice.
Mhm.
So you need to kind of notice, what does feeling safe feel like, not just in your
Versus.
mind. Unsafe.
Mm.
Safe, unsafe. When you're triggered, you feel unsafe. So just that noticing, like, ooh, I feel unsafe and I know what this feels like. And there's many varieties, flavors of it. It could be more, fight or flight, like I want to fight or I want to run away, or it could be more shut down.
Yeah.
So we notice that. The next step is to bring ourselves down to feeling safe.
Mhm.
And there are many somatic practices that I teach, simple somatic
Yeah.
practices, but the main thing is feeling it in your body rather than in your
In
head.
your
So
head.
you're like
Yeah.
actually feeling, oh, it's shifted. And I use a scale from 1 to 10, like, where are you and where does it go down to?
Mhm.
So when you're doing this, if you can't go down to like a 3, 10 being like super triggered, let's say you're at an 8 in the beginning and then you're doing different practices using breath and movement and sound, which I teach. And if you can't go down to a 3, don't work with the
Don't
trigger.
work with the
Like,
trigger.
stop there.
Definitely.
Yes,
Yeah.
stop there. Come back to it. Come back to
Mm.
it another day. Because
It's not going to
we're
go away.
it's not going to go away.
It will.
And we're
Yeah.
not only, working with that particular trigger. What we're doing in this process is that we're teaching our nervous system that it's safe to
Mhm.
be with emotions in
Mhm.
general. And
Mm.
if you have complex trauma, your body doesn't feel that
No.
very, very often. Every emotion is a threat. So, okay, so let's say we've come down to a 3, we feel settled, we don't feel calm and happy, we feel settled and we feel safe.
More
That doesn't
neutral.
mean more, exactly.
Mhm.
What that's doing is giving us more opening to access the emotion that is happening in the trigger. And so we can either go straight into feeling that emotion, expressing that emotion, not to someone else or at someone else. I'm not saying go scream now, go to your partner and scream at them. No, you're going to scream in your room, like by yourself, like you're processing, right? Or if that feels hard to even access the emotion, there are many kind of pathways, like I
Yeah.
teach parts work and inner child, where you're coming into, what am I feeling, how old does it
Mhm.
feel, like am I 3 years old, am I 5 years old, and what's happening in my body, and working through that. And that's the healing part.
Mhm.
That's like where we're processing the trauma and
Mhm.
allowing ourselves to feel the emotion from a space of safety, because when the trauma happened, we were not safe,
Mhm.
right? And so we didn't have the space to feel that emotion all the way through in safety. So that's what we're doing. And the very, very last thing is reflecting. Like,
Mhm.
what did I learn? What is the pattern? Just that's where you use your mind, and that's where you can journal or meditate and think on it when you have processed everything. And then you can determine, do I need to have a conversation with the other person if someone else is involved? Am I just feeling like, okay, that was just my trigger, like I'm clear on it? Is there like a request that I need to make? Or maybe I even need to leave this relationship. All these like things are at the end.
Got it, got it, got it. I love that. It reminds me of my 4R method. We've done my 4R method before. It kind of
I
reminds me
believe
of that.
so.
Yeah. Mine is recognize, which is pretty much, recognize you're triggered and then regulate. So you're not in the trigger, you're with the trigger, reparent, which is the healing part, and then release, which I'm going to add reflect to, but it's
Oh,
kind
I
of
was
the
gonna say
same.
reflect. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
reflect and
cool.
release. Yeah, so you kind of like you release it after you take what you need from it. You do what needs to be done, and then you let it go and you move on with your life. Because a lot of times I used to get stuck. I used to get stuck in the reparenting part, like for days, but I have to always remind myself, like, you took what you needed, now you need to release it and move on with life. Because the whole idea with healing trauma is actually being in the present moment, right? Like the biggest sign that you're actually healing is that you're more present, you're more here. And there's no point in us always just reminiscing about the past and staying in the past and spiraling backwards, because that's not the point. We
But reminiscing is being in our heads,
Yes,
right?
exactly. But even if we're like obsessing with like what's happening in my body and becoming, because I have the tendency of being hyper vigilant. You know, you were saying that you were in your head too much. I've always been in my body too much. So that's why
Mm.
when I started somatic practice, like being somatic practitioner and all that stuff, it was like this for me because I was like, I know this shit, you know, because that was my coping mechanism, is being in my
Mm.
body, not in my brain, kind of thing. Um, you mentioned inner child and reparenting. We've done a bunch of inner child work together when it comes to money. I'd love to get your take on the benefits of doing financial reparenting and inner child work in relationship to our finances. What do you have to say about that?
I feel like whenever we are triggered with really anything, and of course money,
Mm,
it's the child becomes into the driver's seat.
mm-hmm,
So it's the child part of us is making the decisions. Is, when I go to the grocery store and I want to buy a million of everything, that's not the adult self. That's not the mature, wise adult.
mm-hmm,
It's a child who's scared.
mm-hmm.
So what we're doing, that we're doing forever, um, is we're working with that child part. We're creating a relationship with the child. And then when that child erupts into the
Erupts,
scene, yes,
shows up.
we exactly. We need to show up for them
Yeah,
instead of letting them drive us.
yeah.
We show up for them and support them, and we work with them so that then we can come back into the driver's seat.
Yeah, because the thing is, like when that inner child rocks up and shows up and erupts, it's because it doesn't trust the adults. It's usually when financially we weren't able to trust our adults financially when we were children, right? Because on a deeper sense, we felt like maybe our parents didn't do what they're supposed to be doing, right? So with the
Well,
repair,
it could
yeah,
be also generally, right? They
yeah.
they they didn't keep us safe in general, like,
Yeah, because
and so
maybe they work too much or they weren't around. Like there are many things that are not like negative, right? There are so many things that can happen, but the whole idea is that from a child perspective, you did not feel safe financially, and that child decided to be the responsible one, and that's the same child that comes online when we are being quote unquote irresponsible with money or when we're doing weird things, bad money habits, all that stuff. That's an inner child that's coming erupts to use your words because at some point in your life you did not feel safe financially, so that child took charge. So the whole point of financial reparenting is to slowly show that part of you that it's okay to let go, to let the wise, confident part of us, the present day us, or even like, that magician self of us, to trust that part that it will do the right thing. And that is going to come with time. That's going to come with time and a lot of practice.
yeah, I would even say that some of these patterns for me and for many people are not related to financial
No, it's
practices of
true.
our parents.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
anything, right? Like
Anything.
I just didn't feel safe. So, okay, now with money, it's just like when I was sharing my story in
Mhm.
business, I was so triggered. It wasn't because, I was unsafe as in regards to business as a
Yeah.
child. But,
It's just
just
everything. Yeah.
everything comes through that lens.
Yeah.
And also relational, like money is so relational. We have a
Yeah.
relationship with money, and oftentimes I want to tell money like, I'm so disappointed in you, and then I'm like, who am I really disappointed in? My
Mm-hmm.
parents,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So speaking of parents, what happens to us when we are taught to fear our parents as children, or even if we are living in a constant state of fear when we were kids?
Oof, I feel like that's like the definition of a disorganized attachment
Yeah.
style.
True.
It's the thing that is meant to nourish you
Yeah.
is
It's the
also a
thing that
danger
scares
to
you.
you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so tragic when you think
We
about it.
both have this organized attachment, don't we? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as an adult, what does that mean? It means that any connection feels like love and fear
Yeah. We want
dancing
it and we fear it.
together.
We want it, but we're also scared of it. Like
Yes,
so many times, I get the thing that I want, then I'm scared. That's
yes.
so disorganized of me.
Yes,
But
and
also,
I also find that you loop a lot as in a disorganized attachment. Like there's not enough self-trust because it was so fucking confusing as a
yeah.
kid to have a parent who's supposed to be your safest human on the planet be so dangerous to you. And so of course that was confusing, and of course you spend so much as time as an adult also being confused.
And it
Like
disconnects you from what you want and from your desires,
mhm,
right? I have so
mhm,
many clients that don't even know what they want, and that makes
absolutely.
so much sense because they grew up wanting to appease their parents all the time because they're so scared of them that they're not used to, first of all, connecting with their bodies. Not, they don't know what their bodies need. I have a lot of clients where we actually sat down, and one of my clients calls it what, hydration therapy. It's literally listen to your body when you're thirsty. That's how we
Mhm.
started. Like, listen to your body when you need to go to the bathroom, listen to your body when you're thirsty. And that, of course, has a lot of trickle effect or ripple effect onto our relationship with money and all that stuff. So it sometimes starts with like, listen to your body, listen to what your body desires, and then it starts with that, and then to, what do you actually want with life? What do you want money to do for you? Because that's, at the end of the day, our relationship with money is this co-creation of, we're not slaves to it. We're not just gonna like be okay with money and like, oh, my money's okay, I have a lot in the bank, okay, everything's fine. No, we want to create a good life. But how can we know what we want in life if we've been disconnected from our bodies and from our desires from a young age because of that fear that we were living in?
Yeah, I think it's desires and needs. Like
And
there's a
needs, yes.
yeah, there's a lot of even guilt, but I also think, like you said, confusion
Hmm.
about what do I actually want
Is it
because the
okay to want? Are
uh-huh.
my needs this inconveniencing people? Like when I got sick this year, oh my God, like I like temporarily lost the ability to do anything in the kitchen, like even feed myself. Well, I was able to, but it was really hard. And my partner had to do a lot of things that he's not used to doing. And I had to get used to asking him for like, I, I can't even pour water in a glass, right? So that really taught me that it's okay to ask for things. Nothing happened. Nothing bad happened to anyone when I asked for things, right? And then I came here to Jordan, and I was around the same people that scared me when I was young, and I was just asking them for things, and I wasn't inconveniencing anyone. So that was a healing experience of like, my
Wow.
desires are okay. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm okay to have desires and ask for them. It's been something that I'm still reflecting on.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
huge.
So they say that change is the only constant in life, and universally, we're all afraid of change. But change is a fact of life. How can we navigate change and uncertainty? I know that part of your bundle. So, Marina, tell us first about your bundle, the bundle that you're selling, and then tell us about the program inside of this bundle that helps people navigate change and uncertainty.
Yes. So I created something called Healing Deep Within the Journey. And I've put together three of my favorite best-selling online courses. One is on triggers, one is on inner child, and one is on change. And they all really flow
Mm-hmm.
together because first you got to really learn about your nervous system and your emotions, all of this deep, really groundwork that we all need. Then you're deepening into how to work with your inner child, and it's like an 11 day like structured journey of connecting with your inner child and then really hearing them and working with them,
Mm,
and then dealing with change, because like you said, change is terrifying for everyone
everyone.
in our nervous system. In being human, it's extremely challenging. And so one part is like building the capacity to be with it, and the other one is really processing like all the triggers that come around it. And in that course I teach you not only the internal work, but there's also external stuff. Like we need a little bit of certainty, we need a little bit of routine in
Mm-hmm.
times of great uncertainty. Like this is really important because let's be honest, like we could do all the internal work, but when there's external issues that are
Mm-hmm.
happening, right? That that's still going to be really, really challenging. So, of course, we can't always control everything that is happening on the outside. Like right now, all the wars, for example, we don't have control over that.
Yeah.
But we do have control over small parts of our lives. And so that's what I'm teaching. It's both the internal and the external. And I created that course when I moved to Costa Rica. And it was the most, ungrounding, triggering experience for 6 months of my life. I just felt so unsafe because everything was new,
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I've been through two very, very challenging immigrations. So, as basically a refugee both times. And so coming here was really, really triggering that. And it was so like it fucked with me so much because everything was so good externally.
Mm.
Like people were so kind. Everything was working out. Everything was easeful, but inside I felt like I'm gonna die any moment now.
You should
Any
have
moment.
you should have met me when I was in my phase of moving around, when I was moving from Jordan to Australia to America to France to Jordan. We would have gotten along so well. You met me after all the changes. But yeah, I get
That's
it. I get it. It
crazy.
really triggers a lot,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Especially
So
when
much.
things are so good on the outside and you're like, what's wrong with me? Why am I
Exactly.
falling apart?
It's so like confusing and you invalidate yourself. So
Uh-huh.
based on that, I created that course and those courses are all, going together in that flow. Um, yeah,
I wish I
they're
had
awesome.
that in 2005 when I moved to Australia for the first time. Yeah.
Yes,
So
it helps a lot.
Marina's got this three-course bundle, and I'm going to leave my affiliate link in the show notes so that you guys can take a look, have a read through, and maybe buy it, because I think Marina is a great coach, and I think you'll really learn a lot from her. And one last question, Marina. With the rise of AI, why do you think people should continue buying courses from experienced coaches and practitioners, even with all the information that is readily available online these days?
I love that question. And I will say, I use AI all the time. I even talk to AI. I think AI is great. It has helped me in many ways. And I think that we need both,
Hmm.
like because information is gonna sound super cheesy,
Oh,
but I'm
yeah.
still gonna say it. Information is not transformation, right?
Hmm.
So we can know a lot of things,
I
right?
don't think that
In
was
our
cheesy. I like that one.
okay, good.
It's cute.
We can know and understand a lot of things, and I think that understanding the nervous system, which I teach you in the courses, is huge. And the biggest healing, the biggest that I've had in my life, and I'm not just saying that, it's for real, is by working with people who really get it.
Hmm.
And they don't just say, like,
Oh,
oh, yeah, that
yes.
makes sense. But they have had complex trauma.
Yes.
They understand, my current therapist is always laughing when I'm talking, and I'm like, what? And she's like, no, I just relate hardcore. And I'm like, oh, it just makes me feel like, oh my God,
It's
I'm
so relieving.
normal.
It's so relieving when there's someone in front of you that has walked the same path that you're walking through right now.
Yes,
And it's not about giving you the shortcuts, but it kind of is, because somebody there is
totally
giving you
is.
shortcuts. But
Yes.
also it's destigmatizing and de-shaming what you're going through and normalizing it. I mean, my AI, oh, Nadine, that makes total sense. I'm like, does it? How do you know? But thanks.
But also it gives you hope. I
Yeah.
think it gives you a lot of
Yes.
hope to see. It's kind of funny because I asked a lot of my friends or people who are close to me that know me well, like, how do you see me? And just for my business and
Yeah.
for my self-awareness. And they said basically someone who's gone through really fucked up shit, who's like really living her life despite it. And at first I was like, oh, that's really sad. But then I was like, okay, fine, it's true. And, that gives you hope, like to see
Mhm.
someone who has those triggers and they are still running a business, living their life in a beautiful country and like moving through the challenges. And it's
Yeah.
very real and authentic. And also, lastly, our nervous systems talk to each
Talk.
other
Yeah.
all the time. And that is actually the most powerful way of regulation is co-regulation.
Yeah.
So when there's even someone on the screen talking to you and you feel this deep resonance, I mean, I've gotten so many of those comments on my courses. There's such a deep
Even
resonance.
if it's
There's
pre-recorded, there's always a deeper resonance. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And there's like this calm that happens
Hmm.
for you when you're watching it because you're like, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I make sense. And here are steps, strategies that I can follow. And this stuff that I teach you guys, I'm not kidding. I use it every day. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't live without this stuff. This, like, I couldn't live without it for real, without this work. It's life changing. It's priceless, truly.
It's also, I just want to add, like, it also does a lot to your belief system when you see someone that has gone through it and survived and came out the other end. It really reinforces the belief that you can as well. Like when I got sick, the only thing that helped me recover was to look at recovery stories of people that had Guillain-Barré and then have a normal life, because I needed to see with my own eyes, even if I don't know these people. But actually, I met a lot of people in Jordan that knew other people that had it and then went on and lived normally. And that's when my recovery started, of like, I started believing because I can see that there's a cure and that the people are living normally. And that's when my belief system changed. And that's the same when we're going through a trigger, when we're going through money trauma, when we're going through whatever it is, when we see someone in front of us that we admire, that we kind of like, even if we don't know them in person, but we kind of like vibe with, it really makes a massive difference. So yeah, AI is great, but working with real human beings, I mean, that's irreplaceable.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Marina, and I will pop in the affiliate link in the show notes, as well as your Instagram, your website, and all the beautiful stuff. Thanks so much for coming on Unfuck Your Money. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Thank you. I love you. And I'm so happy that you
I
are
love you
part
too.
of this launch.
Yeah, I love you too, Marina, and I love you all. And see you all later. Thank you so much.